Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages from all across the world. You are now tuned in to the Chandler Brief, your favorite daily source for news, entertainment, culture, politics, whatever it is you come to this channel for. We bring it to you every weekday here at 3 and at some days 3:30 like today. We've got a ton of stories we're going to be jumping into for you guys today, but first things first, I want to say happy Monday, guys. It is Monday, March 28th. And man, has it been a little while since our last show. We planned to have a show on Friday, but unfortunately some things came up, so sorry about that. We couldn't bring it to you guys on Friday. And we also had a Thursday evening show planned, but once again, things came up. Of course, as you guys know, I don't only do these streams. Of course, as you heard just a minute ago, we actually have more music coming on soon on the way, which we'll talk about later on. But we have a ton of topics we're going to be jumping into. We try to bring the show to you guys as much as we can, but to encourage me keeping and bringing up the show to you guys, make sure you keep smashing that like button, subscribe. Shout out to my people in the chat. Ann said phone alarm worked great. So shout out to see it. Love to see it. People saying the YouTube notifications work this time, which is good. That's a surprise. Might be the first time, might be the last time. So make sure you set your own phone notification so that when I start a live show, you know when to tune in. So you just set like an alarm every day for like 2:55 to know, oh, I should probably tune into the Chandler Brief. This is the show we put on while you're at work or while you're driving home from work or depending on your time zone, maybe at lunch or I don't know, if you're out there in the East, maybe just waking up or just going to bed. I don't know. Time zones are interesting like that. But I won't dilly-dally any further. We have a ton of stories to jumping into. So let's get started right about on the 4-minute mark. So right about now, the FDA may authorize a second COVID booster for adults 50 and older, reports say, but not all experts agree. Let me break this down for you because they're using some interesting language here. May authorize a second COVID booster. Yes, that's true. A second COVID booster. That's a fourth shot. They're saying second COVID booster to make you think, oh, that's not so bad. It's an interesting linguistic game they play. It's semantic. But of course, you have the first shot, and then the second shot, and then the booster, and then a second booster. Or if you got the whichever one is like one shot, then I guess it's technically a third shot, but they're also saying the one where you get one shot isn't real anymore. So I don't know. A lot of madness. Let's jump into this article here. Everyone 50 and older could soon be eligible for an additional COVID vaccine, at least 4 months after their booster shot. According to multiple reports, the FDA is likely to approve that extra shot as soon as tomorrow as a hedge against a surge of infections, either from the BA.2 variant or another to come. But some health experts question the focus on a fourth dose at a time when many people still haven't had earlier doses, when cases are near historic lows, and before there's solid data supporting the need for another shot, and for whom. There are people who will benefit from a fourth shot, but the real gap is getting first, second, and third shots to people over 65. That really is the bigger risk right now. The oldest Americans who are at a high risk of being hospitalized and dying from COVID should be authorized for another shot, experts told USA Today. But there isn't data to suggest a benefit from a fourth shot for an otherwise healthy younger person. Where's the evidence? Asked Dr. Paul Offit, who directs the Vaccine Education Center at Children's Hospital. Information from other countries shows a clear benefit to a fourth dose for people who are immunocompromised or over 70. Both groups may have trouble making the immune soldiers that protect against serious disease. Immune soldiers. That's so funny. A member of the FDA's vaccine advisory panel, Ofeet, said, Americans with immunocompromising conditions such as an organ transplant recipients and active cancer patients are already authorized to get a fourth dose in the U.S. But Ofeet worries that there may be unintended consequences to repeated boosters for healthy people, along with diminishing returns, which of course we have literally seen the truth and the proof of. There are, of course, diminishing returns and unintended consequences, as we've talked about before, and I won't talk about again for YouTube's sake, but it's clear to see that there's a lot of issues when it comes to this mess, and people are worried, and for good reason. The first 2 doses have been extremely effective in protecting otherwise healthy people from becoming severely ill from COVID, he said, raising questions about the need for repeated boosters at this point. You may get a cold even though you've been vaccinated. We're going to have to live with that. So it's clear to see there's a lot of confusion going around like this, and a lot of people are wondering, what are we going to do through this? Because a lot of folks are like, I haven't taken the first 2 and I'm not taking any boosters. A lot of folks are like, I've taken 2 and whatever else, but I don't want to take more boosters. But it's only a matter of time, right? The third one was all just like, oh, you know, you'd have to build on what the vaccines already did. They're doing the exact same thing here, starting with the old people and then lowering it down and shaking it down. And it always starts in other countries. Notice how in the article they said, in other countries, the fourth shot has been effective in protecting people. Well, of course they're going to say that. You look at other countries and say, well, America has to follow their lead, right? and that's how they push it on you. Will we see a fourth shot take America by storm? I severely doubt it. I think we are awoken enough, if you don't mind me making a pun out of my next song. I think we are awoke enough, or awake enough to see that these aren't getting us the returns that we quite want anymore. And it's clear to see that folks are, well, they're tired of it. Frankly, tired of having to live with all these different institutions coming down upon them. For instance, maybe they're tired of their children in schools having to deal with teachers trying to pass upon them sexual orientations. Because our next story is the fact that Governor Ron DeSantis has signed into law the quote-unquote "Don't Say Gay" bill. However, it's got a real name. That's just what the crazies have been calling it. But the bill has been signed by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, which has banned schools in Florida, and more specifically teachers, from passing upon their sexual orientation and fetishes to the next generation. We're going to jump into this in a second, but I do want to remind you that this show is, of course, 100% supported by viewers like you. So if you're interested in supporting our content and joining our illustrious Hall of Heroes at the top, you could do so by going to the description and considering a one-time or even a monthly donation to support our content. Of course, you can also use our Cash App if you're interested in sending me a question or sending me a message or asking me a question. Then you could do so by either of those means, of which are in the description or the Cash App link above. Also, I'd like to proudly remind you guys that our channel is, of course, sponsored by MyPillow. So if you're interested in getting your hands on one of these extremely comfortable pillows, then you can go to mypillow.com and use code CRUMP. They are actually having a spring sale on pillows for as low as $20, a limited time only. So make sure you head over to mypillow.com and use code CRUMP. Hit confirm, and it will apply to your order, giving you these amazing low prices on all items on their shop. Of course, to various amounts, like a pet blanket, 30% off, or as low as $20 for various dog beds. All of which is available over at mypillow.com with code CRUMP, that is code CRUMP. Now let's jump into what amazing, potentially probably one of the best governors in America is doing right now to protect your children. We have some people in the chat who say they're from Florida, which is just amazing. Let's jump into this. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill on Monday that forbids instruction on orientation and gender identity in kindergarten through third grade, a policy that has drawn intense national scrutiny from critics who argue it marginalizes LGBT people. The legislation has pushed Florida and DeSantis, an ascending Republican and potential 2024 candidate, to the forefront of the country's culture wars, with LGBT advocates, students, Democrats, and the entertainment industry, as well as the White House, denouncing what critics have called the "Don't Say Gay" bill. DeSantis and other Republicans have repeatedly said the measure is reasonable and that parents, not teachers, should be broaching subjects of orientation and gender identity with their children. "We will make sure that parents can send their kids to school to get an education, not an indoctrination," DeSantis said to Applause before he signed the bill into law. The bill states classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through third grade or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. Parents will be able to sue districts over violations. DeSantis signed the bill after a news conference held at the Classical Preparatory School in Spring Hill, about 46 miles north of Tampa. The school was founded by Ann Corcoran, wife of Education Commissioner Richard Corcoran, according to the Gainesville Sun. Public backlash began almost immediately after the bill was introduced, with early criticism lobbed by Chasten Buttigieg, the husband of Pete Buttigieg, and condemnation from LGBT advocacy groups, Democratic President Joe Biden, who called it hateful. But it's, well, clear to see that not everybody that is in favor of this bill is hateful. In fact, I know, and I'm not trying to be like, I have, these types of friends, but like LGBT people in the conservative movement, or I should say more so the Trump supporter populist movement, have even been in support of this bill, which really goes to show you something. A lot of these people that are against this bill, and a lot of the people that are against the people against the bill, have been saying that those that are opponents to the bill are groomers. And you can't argue with that much, can you? Considering that these are people that are campaigning for the ability to, in public school, have, let's say, a pride parade, like they're doing in certain Texas schools, or teach your kids about what the non-binary flag means. Of course, there's a lot of concern that comes with each and every single one of these institutions and what they may or may not teach. Thus, there's a lot of parents that want to get involved and support somebody who's going to support their right to, not have their children be indoctrinated. That's why Ron DeSantis is more popular than ever, getting rounds of applause simply when his name is mentioned, and beating out Trump in some areas with polls, or at least to some people saying, yeah, I support DeSantis more than Trump. Now, I'm not on that camp, but I definitely understand people that are. I understand that this guy is saying things that nobody else is willing to say. I mean, just like last week, he announced that he endorses and recognizes Emma Wayant as the winner of the NCAA swim meet, the swim championship. If you guys aren't familiar with that, that is the girl who got second place to Lia Thomas, or as many people are just calling him by his birth name, which I can't even remember. I think it's William or something like that. Either way, his birth name, which is a male name, Thomas. He's going by Leah now, but of course, Ron DeSantis, as amazing of a governor as he is coming out to say, no, Emma Wayant won. And that's just all you need to do. But speaking of people that are speaking for this bill, at least against it, I should say, Walt Disney has finally broken its silence. Now, not Walt Disney, because of course Walt Disney himself probably would be in support of this bill, but the Walt Disney Company has come out to say that they have an opinion. Florida's HB 1557, also known as the Don't Say Gay bill. Hold on, there's gotta be like an sound. I gotta add that. Should never have passed and should never have been signed into law. Our goal as a company is for this law to be repealed by the legislature or struck down on the courts, and we remain committed to supporting the national and state organizations working to achieve that. We are dedicated to standing up for the rights and safety of LGBTQ plus members of the Disney family, as well as the LGBT community in Florida and across the country. So yes, Disney's magic is magically teaching your kids about what two men do in bed. Disney's dream is all about making sure that your 5-year-old knows that boys can kiss boys too. Disney's wonder is having a daydream about what your daughter can do for them. Disgusting stuff, truly. Truly, truly, truly. And as you can see, there are people in the comments that have plenty to say about this as well. Libs of TikTok says, why do you want to teach 5-year-olds about that? Yikes. And as you can see, Disney has received quite close a ratio, with only 2,400 likes in comparison to 1,100 quote tweets. Now let me tell you guys something. It's a lot easier to hit like on something, and let me quickly unlike that, than to hit this and the type of a whole quote tweet. That's a lot more to do. So you weight a quote tweet in comparison to the likes a lot more heavily. People are concerned. Scott Pressler, who is once again one of those LGB populists that I've been talking about, says, I support the Florida anti-grooming bill. Third grade children should not be talking about that. Businesses who think third grade children should be about that should not be getting our business. What do you need to say? Even the people that are within the community in some way, shape, or form are against this. What do you expect us to do, Walt Disney Company? Be on your side? As you can see, right here, they're getting ratioed, because not only are the quote tweets nearly beating the likes, but the comments actually are, with 4,700 comments under this tweet with only 2,400 likes. Now, I don't know how many folks are super invested in the Twitter culture, but that is big, especially for a company of Walt Disney size with 600,000 followers. That is a massive Twitter account. Alright, y'all are telling me I need to check the comments, so let's check in real quick. Aaron says, I'm glad our tax dollars will be going to building offshore wind generators on the California coasts. They get rocked by hurricanes yearly. Rebecca says, hey Chandler, did you hear about the latest vax rules in NYC? Entertainers and athletes don't need the vax to work in NYC, but everyone else does, because famous people are special and don't spread viruses. Diamond R says, the My Pillow is the best pillow I've ever owned. Yes, it is. And it will be the best pillow for your dog, too, if you have one, or maybe the best mattress you've ever owned. MyPillow.com, code Crump. But this story just keeps on keeping on. Now, as you guys more than likely know, and as I've been trying to dance around it, last night, oh, you were saying check the comments on Twitter. We might go back a little bit later. We're trying to get through our subject, but thank you for the comment, or thank you for the suggestion. Last night, the Oscars happened. Now, in usual Oscar stance, nobody was watching, nobody cared, and nobody was paying attention until a certain big thing happened. We'll be talking about that big thing in a minute. But the thing I want to talk about first that connects to our story is the people that went up on the Oscars stage last night and literally chanted the words, gay, 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 gay,
rub my leg down
on the stage to protest the Don't Say Gay bill, because that's how you get things done, right? Let's see here. Oscars co-host Amy I'm sorry. Okay, alright, anyways. Wanda Sykes and Regina Hall ended their opening speech Sunday by throwing some shade at Florida legislation widely known as the Don't Say Gay bill. The trio of comedy stars are the latest of several Hollywood figures to speak out against the bill, which would restrict classroom instruction on orientation and gender identity. We're gonna have a great night tonight, Sykes said at the top of the ABC's Oscars telecast. And for you people in Florida, we're gonna have a gay night. Gay, 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 gay.
Go, you know the thing.
Drawing cheers and applause as they chanted it through the building. Earlier this week, Disney employees organized a walkout protesting the controversial legislation. Among the other entertainment luminaries who have publicly opposed the bill are Disney Channel star Raven-Symoné, who is lesbian, Marvel and Star Wars actor Oscar Isaac, who, well, that's interesting, and Scandal alumni Kerry Washington. It's worth noting that ABC, which broadcasts the Oscars, is owned by Disney, the studio giant that came under fire for initially taking a neutral stance on the bill. Disney's CEO has since apologized. Do we have the video of them saying gay? I need to find this. I have to see this. Real quick, before we move on, I gotta see them chanting gay. Oscars, gay, gay, gay. I want you to have a gay night. I don't want to play this too loud, but
we're gonna
yeah.
have a great night tonight, and for you people in Florida, we're gonna have a gay night. Gay, gay, gay.
I'm speechless. Aaron's talking about it already. All right, fine. Let's just jump into the elephant in the room that I've been doing so eloquently to dance around, but now it's time to jump into the real deal. Now, for all folks who have heard enough about this, what else happened at the Oscars tonight? Stick around. We're gonna get through it. We have more subjects on the other end of it, but this is gonna be a rather big block. So if you refuse to hear from it, click off, come back in about 5 minutes, and we'll probably be through it. Or just mute it and set yourself a phone timer for 5 minutes, and we'll get right through this. Let's jump into this. Chris Rock and Will Smith. Now, it was a major, massive thing that happened last night. And if you weren't watching and haven't seen it, I don't know how you haven't. It's been everywhere. I could barely find other stories to talk about. But thankfully I did. But anyways, Chris Rock, last night, who is a comedian, made a joke about Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, talking about how she could be in the G.I. Jane 2 or something like that. I didn't fully get the joke, but it was something about how she does not have much hair due to a condition. He didn't know about the condition, obviously, but he was just making a joke about how she does not have much hair. Will Smith being, well, I would say Will Smith, but this is uncharacteristic of him, at least in my opinion, decided to get up, walk up on stage, and smack Chris Rock upside the face, sit back down, and then say, "Don't you talk about my wife!" Now, there's been a lot of questions about whether this was a legitimate thing, whether it was staged, unstaged, and we're not here to get into any of that because, frankly, I don't care. If we're talking about it, they've won already. But let's just jump into this. Chris Rock hasn't spoken to Will Smith and didn't know Jada has alopecia, which is the condition. We'll just get through this quickly. Will Smith and Chris Rock have not buried the hatchet, despite reports to the contrary. In fact, they haven't spoken since the slap. A source with direct knowledge tells us Chris and Will haven't settled anything, despite a claim from Diddy saying everything was cool. In fact, we're told the whole thing stunned Chris, who went straight to his dressing room after the slap, and there has been no communication since between the two men. We spoke to a close friend of Chris who was at the Oscars, who tells us even before the incident with Will, he had no intention of staying. He went to his dressing room and then left the building. Then there's this. The source says Chris had no idea Jada had alopecia and that he doesn't have a mean bone in his body. Chris's joke that sparked the smack was directed at Jada's short hair, telling her he couldn't wait for G.I. Jane 2. Let's just see this so-called smack that everybody's talking about, right? Real quick. And as you guys can see, I had Twitter fingers about it. We'll talk about that in a minute. And this word here, which you guys... Oh, I did not think I'd ever be talking about this on this channel. Let's jump into this.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, and also beware of language. It's about to happen right now.
Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
ウィル・スミスにやられました。
Right here.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's
G.I. ジェーンのジョークだったんです。
fucking mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay.
Right there. When I want to take a quick note. As you guys know, or may or may not, I don't know, I just said it. Chris Rock is a comedian, and he is a very good one. He is very funny. Now, I don't know much about his politics, and we're not even jumping into this. This is a quick segue into culture real quick before we kind of segment this back into politics in a second. But right there, you can see Chris Rock is a comedian. He just thought of 20 different ways he could tear Will Smith to shreds. As you can see, he was like, oh, can't say that. Live television.
Okay? Okay.
He said, I can, okay. Takes a lot of restraint to do something like that. But of course, Will Smith does not have that same restraint. Let's dig into this story a little bit. As you can see, I tweeted here, his wife had entanglements, and he's causing a problem on live TV. For her, over a joke, he's got to be selling a movie or something. Otherwise, this is sad. Now, the his I'm talking about is Will Smith. Will Smith's wife's name is Jada Pinkett Smith. Jada Pinkett Smith came out a couple years ago to have had a big affair against Will Smith with another artist named August Alsina, who then released a song called Entanglements. It's a good song, I like it. But anyways, the phrase entanglement went viral last year, or actually the year before last, I believe, because that was the phrase she used when she talked to Will Smith about her affair. She said, I had an entanglement with August, as in August Alsina. Now, this wouldn't, connect much to anything, but it's become such a major story now, we've got to talk about it. I continue to tweet. So I guess Will Smith is going to be the Alec Baldwin of Hillary Clinton's because, well, he went up on stage and smacked a guy in front of thousands of people in the building and millions of people live on TV. That's got to be a crime, right? You've smacked him pretty hard, too. I mean, Chris Rock's a tough guy, and Will Smith is also tough, so obviously there's a lot of force behind it. Chris Rock ate it either way, but still. Will Smith slapping dudes and then crying the same night? He's setting us back for real. Because yes, not only did Will Smith attack Chris Rock, he then later went on to cry about it. Yes, he cried about it. And hold on, where's my article about this? I had an article, and then I guess I copied it onto something else. But let me just find, there it is. Okay, cool. Alright, because then he went on to cry about it. Here's this. Will Smith shares message of love during Best Actor speech. Doesn't apologize to Chris Rock for slap. You can't write this stuff. Will Smith just won the award for Best Actor, tears streaming down his face as he stood to address the crowd, and shared a message of love just moments after smacking Chris Rock. Smith opened by saying Serena and Venus's father, Richard Williams, who he played in King Richard, was a fierce defender of his family. Of course, he was alluding to the smack, but continued, I'm being called on in my life to love people and to protect people, and be a river to my people. I know to do what we do. You gotta be able to take abuse, have people talk crazy about you. He then talked about having to face disrespect, even while people talk crazy about you. During the commercial break, just after the smack, Will was pulled aside by Denzel Washington and Tyler Perry. Will says Denzel told him, that was your highest moment, be careful, that's when the devil comes to you. Interestingly enough, Will said he wants to be a vessel for love, even though he smacked Chris. Will never apologized to Rock, saying, I want to apologize to the Academy and my fellow nominees. This is a beautiful moment, and I'm not crying for winning an award. It's not about winning an award for me. It's about being able to shine a light on all of the people. And as you can see, here are the stunned faces of the various women in the audience. As he reported, Will got up on stage and smacked Chris after the comedian cracked a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith. A lot of craziness happening. I wanted to cover that real quick just to not be the only one not talking about it. But anyways, Aaron Banger says, I think it was real. Rikiti Media made a good argument for it. Frame by frame. Diamond R says, I don't know if the smack was real, but it does make sense for Will to be mad. Yada yada. Ann says, who was sitting in the audience? Actors, hello. Diamond R says, what do you think about Cardi B being on the kids show Mommy and Daddy Shark, being the voice for one of the characters? I heard about that. We'll have to jump into that later on. Aaron says, go watch Rikiti Media today. He tears down the fake argument completely right after the show. Alright, cool. Alright, finally we're done with the Will Smith segment. Let's jump back into some real news. Because there's only one thing scarier than Will Smith running up on stage to smack you. Depending on how you see it, because Will Smith running up on stage might not be as scary considering what his wife is up to. Anyways, I won't roast him anymore. With the US dollar's dominance in question, here's how China's yuan could become a global reserve currency, and why it wouldn't be all bad. This is some World Economic Forum crap right here. This is some Chinese propaganda right here. Now, as you guys know, recently, the Chinese yuan has been taking the world by storm, with the American dollar receiving less and less worldwide acceptance as these sanctions against Russia have created a big pause on the economies of the world and made a big issue. China's yuan continues to take more and more ground, whether it be with India, whether it be with Saudi Arabia and the petro yuan, These different things are all coming together, causing some big issues. So let's jump into this article and see why Markets Insider thinks that China should have control of the world economy. Makes sense to me, right? Let's jump into this. Let me zoom in a little bit. There you go. That's a bit better. China's yuan eventually could develop into a reputable global reserve currency, but Beijing would have to drastically loosen its grip on the economy, according to a Chinese economy expert who also sees some upside to a downgrade in the US dollar status. What is that? Western sanctions that froze much of Russia's foreign currency holdings since its invasion of Ukraine have underscored the dollar's power while also highlighting the risks of relying on it heavily. The use of Chinese currency will inevitably expand and play a much bigger role in the world. Some currencies feel their economies could be held hostage to US policies because the dollar is dominant and countries want to diversify their risk. Already upwards of 70 central banks hold some yuan as a reserve currency, while many African countries and some in the Middle East regularly use it for transactions as noted, or he noted, which we've talked about before. 70 central banks are holding yuan and African countries are jumping in, including the Middle East. Meanwhile, other central banks have diversified their holdings over the last 20 years, reducing the dollar's share of global reserves, the International Monetary Fund said in a report Thursday. And in recent weeks, more efforts to pull back from the dollar have emerged. Saudi Arabia and China are using to use yuan in a new oil deal. We talked about that. Russia and India are in talks to receive a ruble rupee ledger. Man, it feels good to be talking about things that the article is talking about. I feel like I'm doing my job. Moscow has also demanded Europe use rubles to pay for its natural gas and may even turn to Bitcoin for payment. Were the dollar to lose its status as the world's reserve currency, it would raise interest rates for our historically large debt relative to the economy. That means American consumers and businesses would face higher borrowing costs. Prices for imports would also likely rise. How is this a good thing for Americans? How is this a good thing for the world economy? Giving more power to a country as brutal and with as little freedom as China, which we have documented many times before to have committed atrocities against their own minority groups, something of which the world has not seen in a massive stance from a first world country in history. What are we expecting? At least a current first world country. I think you can define most of China as a first world area, and yet they're still doing terrible things to Uyghurs. Why is it a good thing? For now, greenbacks comprised. Well, let's see how China can make the yuan more competitive. No. How is this a good thing? Chen also said a more prominent yuan would have another benefit, as the emergence of multiple global reserve currencies would provide a hedge against the collapse of any single currency, okay? The yuan must become as trustworthy as the dollar. Countries generally trust that the US isn't going to screw up, but whether the yuan could be perceived as a store of value, a safe haven during the uncertainty of war, that is much more a difficult thing. So it seems like this article mainly is stating that it's good to have another currency to fall back on. That's the reason why we should have more. Not taking into account any of the multiple human rights abuses or simple disgusting facts of the Chinese economy or China in and of itself, that could be more than enough cause for concern. I just wanted to bring that up quickly. Last but not least, a quick story I want to cover before we end the show for today. I want to bring light to the fact that a judge has found Trump more than likely not illegally trying to obstruct Congress on January 6th. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty sure a judge is supposed to rule one or the other and then give a sentence, depending on a case, whatever it may be. Sometimes it's a jury. But find Trump more than likely not? That does not make much sense to me. Here's the article. Judge finds Trump more likely than not illegally tried to obstruct Congress on the 6th. A federal judge in California on Monday ordered conservative attorney John Eastman to turn over a tranche of emails to the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol and found that former President Trump more likely than not illegally tried to impede official congressional proceedings. In his 44-page decision involving the documents from Eastman, a former law professor at Chapman University, who played a key role in Trump's efforts, finds it is more likely than not that President Trump, yada yada, we've read that a few times. Dr. Eastman and President Trump launched a campaign to overturn a Democratic election, an action unprecedented in American history, he wrote. Their campaign was not confined to the ivory tower. It was a coup in search of a legal theory. The plan spurred violent attacks on the seat of our nation's government, led to the deaths of several law enforcement officers, and deepened public distrust in our political process. For good reason. Eastman's legal fight with the House Select Committee came in response to a subpoena it issued to Chapman University for records including emails related to the 2020 election. Eastman used his Chapman email account to communicate about efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results and sought to withhold the documents from investigators. So, obviously, This is a California judge saying whatever a California judge wants to say to bring Trump down. And obviously, all these different media sources are picking the story up, thinking it's going to do something. Specifically, at issue were emails exchanged between January 4th, 2021 and the 7th, some of which Eastman attempted to claim privilege over assertions that were rejected by the committee. Of the 111 emails from those dates, Eastman said should be shielded from disclosure, Carter found just 10 contained privileged information and therefore should be withheld. The remaining 101 must be disclosed to the House Select Committee, he said. At most, this case is a warning about the dangers of legal theories gone wrong. If Dr. Eastman and President Trump's plan had worked, it would have permanently ended the peaceful transition of power, undermining American democracy and the Constitution, because, of course, Trump would have held permanent power and these people would become dictators. Look at him now. If Trump wanted to hold permanent power and become a dictator, I think he would still be leading America right now. These judges are grasping at straws. These Democrats are continuing their unselected committee to try and bring down the conservative movement and bring down the Trump wave, and clearly they're getting desperate. That is why we talk about it each and every day, to shine a light on what these sewer rats are up to. And I'm very proud to bring the show to you guys every single day. So big thank you and shout out to everybody who is watching us here on YouTube and on Rumble. You guys mean the absolute world to me. Big shout out to our people who have supported us with a donation below or have considered supporting us in the past or may in the future. Let me check and make sure I'm not missing any of those. So shout out to all those folks. Thank you guys so much for being tuned in. We'll be live once again tomorrow here at 3. This is, of course, the Chandler Brief, our show we do every weekday where we bring you guys the news, entertainment, and content. And aside from all that, I will catch you guys tomorrow, next time, free thinkers. So don't forget to spread the virus of intelligence. Peace.
Into the light we go.